That's right.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Logan Josey, and I am here for standing in for our president, Hackle. Welcome. Come, whoever you are, holding various beliefs, whatever your skin color, whatever your age or gender identity, whatever your abilities, whomever you are. You are welcome at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Statesboro. You are welcome in this, our religious home. I extend a warm welcome to visitors and guests. I don't think we have any. Am I mistaken? Do we have any visitors this morning? You are, how are you? I don't consider you, John. I don't consider you a visitor anyway. Welcome back. Would you like to state your name to everybody?
John Deal.
John Deal, thank you so
Welcome.
much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, for the month of October, half of our offering that's not designated as a pledge will be shared with a group that is very close to my heart, the Statesboro Migrant Support Group. We certainly can use any resources that you give us. Thank you for sharing those with us later in our service. Now I invite you to join with me in reciting our congregational affirmation, which is on the wall and also printed in the order of service. Love
is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is this prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our worship leader this morning is Syrin. Dr. Johnson.
Bear with me as I reflect on my cheat sheet in front of me. Let us worship together. We will begin with the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our religious faith. After that, we will rise together and sing Rise Up, O Flame twice. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, fits and needs. We write to speak and flow, sign our quest for true truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. All right, rise in body or spirit as we sing Rise Up, O Flame. Bear with me as I get the YouTube video working.
Hi everyone.
Please no edits, no.
editor.
We'll just all be really loud with them.
Rise up, O flame, my glory, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, my glory, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Now let us honor the light within one another as we greet those seated nearby.
I've been at least the first I've been
Now is the time for our story for all ages. With the children and the young at heart, Sally, I'm looking at you. Please come down front to hear the story, which I will share with you guys. It's a story called Old Turtle with some beautiful illustrations. We have today Old Turtle, written by Douglas Wood, with beautiful watercolors by Chang Chi. Old Turtle. Any of you guys like turtles? Turtle fans?
I like turtles.
Once, long, long ago, yet somehow not so very long, when all the animals and rocks and winds and waters and trees and birds and fish, all the beings of the world could speak and understand one another, there began an argument. It began softly at first, quiet as the first breeze that whispered, "He is a wind who is never still." Quiet as the stone that answered, "He is a great rock that never moves." Gentle as the mountain that rumbled, "God is a snowy peak high above the clouds." And the fish in the ocean that answered, "God is a swimmer in the dark blue depths of the sea." "No," said the star, "God is a twinkling and a shining far, far away." "No," replied the ant, "God is a sound and a smell and a feeling who's very, very close." "God," said the antelope, "is a runner, swift and free, who loves to leap and race with the wind." "She is a great tree," murmured the willow, "a part of the world, always growing, always giving." "You are wrong," argued the island. "God is separate and apart. God is like the shining sun, far above all things," said the blue sky. "No, he is a river who flows through the very heart of things," thundered the waterfall. "She's a hunter," roared the lion. "God is gentle," chirped the robin. "He's powerful," growled the bear. And the argument grew louder and louder and louder until, "Stop!" A new voice spoke. It rumbled loudly like thunder, and it whispered softly like butterfly sneezes. The voice seemed to come from, it seemed to come from Old Turtle. Now, Old Turtle hardly ever said anything, and certainly never argued about things like God. But now Old Turtle began to speak. "God is indeed deep," she said to the fish in the sea, "and much higher than high," she told the mountains. "He is swift and free as the wind, and still and solid as a great rock," she said to the breezes and stones. "She is the life of the world," Turtle said to the willow, "always close by, yet beyond the farthest twinkling light." She told the ant and the star, "God is gentle and powerful above all things and within all things. God is all that we dream of and all that we seek," said Old Turtle, "and all that we come from and all that we can find. God is." Old Turtle had never said so much before. All the beings of the world were surprised and became very quiet. But Old Turtle had one more thing to say. "There will soon be a new family of beings in the world," she said, "and they will be strange and wonderful. They will be reminders of all that God is. They will come in many colors and shapes with different faces and different ways of speaking. Their thoughts will soar to the stars, but their feet will walk the earth. They will possess many powers. They will be strong yet tender, a message of love from God to the earth and a prayer from the earth back to God." And the people came. Look at all these people. But the people forgot. They forgot that they were a message of love and a prayer from the earth. And they began to argue about who knew God and who did not, and where God was and was not, and whether God was or was not. And often the people misused their powers and hurt one another or killed one another, and they hurt the earth. Until finally, even the forests began to die. And the rivers and the oceans and the plants and the animals and the earth itself, because the people could not remember who they were or where God was. Until one day, there came a voice like the growling of thunder, but as soft as butterfly sneezes. Please, stop. The voice seemed to come from the mountain who rumbled, sometimes I see God swimming in the dark blue depths of the sea, and from the ocean who sighed, he is often among the snow-capped peaks reflecting the sun. From the stone who said, I sometimes feel her breath as she blows by, and from the breeze who whispered, I feel his presence as I dance among the rocks. And the star said, God is very close, and the island said, his love touches everything. And after a long, lonesome, and scary time, the people listened and began to hear and to see God in one another and in the beauty of all the earth. And Old Turtle smiled. And so did God. I believe it's time for our children's affirmation. I know Billy can lead it. All right. We are
Unitarian, Universalist, people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands.
Okay. You guys know what time it is. The bridge is already built. Okay, we don't have music for this one. Mo and Tara, you're singled out.
We shelter you, you warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you go, to help you learn and help you grow.
Let us pause now for a few moments of meditation, prayer, or reflection after I read this little poem. In awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. Of gratitude had begun to sing in me. Is there some moment dividing song from no song? When does dewfall begin? When does night hold its arms over our hearts to cherish it? When is daybreak? Today's message is going to be the voices of several of our members, and it is my great pleasure to introduce first. He will be my partner of 7 years and 2 weeks. He is Statesboro's newest planning commissioner. He is the center of my universe.
I had to write something down or it'd be just a lot of ums and ahs. And anyone who knows me pretty well knows that the history lesson was probably coming too, so strap in for that. It's not too bad. But I was looking obviously prepping for this, trying to find, some UUers from the past that I could talk a little bit about. And there's a lot of interesting stories, obviously, but there's one deep within Wikipedia that really stuck out to me. And it was a man, I don't know if y'all heard of him. His name was Charles Henry Vail. He was born in Tully, New York, April 28, 1866. Although raised as an Orthodox Protestant in the Disciple Church, which is today the United Church of Christ, Vail came to question his upbringing and turned to Universalism. Ironically, he was spurred on to do this by an anti-Universalist book his parents gave him. It was supposed to sway him away from all this blasphemy here, I guess. All of this is happening. He's also having a political change. He was raised in a Republican family at the time in the Northeast, which was very, very common in that area. At the same time, his religious opinions are shifting, so are his political opinions. They pretty rapidly shifted towards socialism. At the end of 1900, Vail accepted a job as the national organizer for the early Socialist Party of America. He toured the United States speaking on socialism for 7 of the first 9 months of 1901, traveling over 14,000 miles and visiting 19 states in that time. He was accompanied the entire time by his wife, Nina, who he often shared a platform with. The exact same time he's doing this, speaking all over the country, he also throws his hat into the ring for the governorship in New Jersey. He stepped down from his position as pastor of the First Universalist Church in Jersey City to run for office. His position was filled by his faithful wife, Nina. They were always a partnership in crime, really soon. After the assassination of President McKinley, Vail faced hostile crowds and suffered canceled meetings. Vail refused to bow to intimidation and threats of violence and delivered 29 more addresses over the rest of the 1901 campaign. By the end of the year, he had toured 25 states, delivered 241 public lectures, and despite that, he still only barely cracked 1% of the vote in New Jersey. So it wasn't, the most prosperous campaign. But I think it's dead wrong to say that his work, that whole 2 years or so, was for nothing. Now, this isn't going to be some kind of lecture about great socialist, Universalist Unitarians, Unitarian Universalists, excuse me. This is about how people like me are drawn to Unitarian Universalism. People who care about justice and human rights. People who stand for what is right and not just what is popular. Like Mr. Vail, I wasn't born into some kind of revolutionary socialist family. I didn't inherit these ideas that I came up with. My father, bless his heart, is probably the least enthusiastic Reagan Republican on earth. He believes all this stuff, just don't talk to him about it. My mother, on the other hand, was more like a centrist Democrat, so I saw, both of those perspectives growing up through most of my life. We didn't really have any arguments or deep discussions about politics, but you just still have to hear Rush Limbaugh or Don Imus in the background, wherever the heck you were in the house. So that was a little unfortunate. At the same time, my religious upbringing was a little varied as well. I spent time in the Southern Baptist Church, the United Methodist Church, Seventh-day Adventists, Catholicism, and there's probably a ton of other places I forgot. It's been a while. But despite all this bouncing around, despite all the different ideas I've been exposed to growing up, I found socialism and I found Unitarian Universalism through the same process, the search for truth. Mr. Vail searched for truth in his life over 100 years ago. It took him some time. It involved a lot of aches and pains. He probably lost family and friends along the way. We know it did. But it had to happen. Just like when you went around the country to spread the truth about life after capitalism. It might have been hard. It might have been, annoying getting all those threats of violence every day from people who just don't understand. But it had to happen. Unitarian Universalists are spiritually, if not cosmically, drawn to justice. It's part of our moral fabric. So I think in that same way for him, it was, not something that was easy, but it was something that was important and something he was called to do. And I think it shows, in that story, that our resilience and our power is a lot stronger than a lot of us might think. We talk a lot about love and the softer things, but I think some of the more really powerful things that we have to address is just how resilient and how committed we are to the truth as a people. Despite how much easier it might be to blend in with the crowd around here, to just go to some big mainline Protestant church and build a big network and a big family of all these different kinds of people. Not that there's anything wrong with that, obviously, but you chose to be here. You didn't choose to be here because you wanted to be seen here. You're here because you care about truth and justice, the same things that we talked about. Here's the real important part, though. Despite put truth and justice to the side for a little bit, as hard as it is. You all know about that, but you also all know about the small things. The smiles, the kind words, the care you give for others in this congregation when they need help, or even just being a shoulder to cry on, someone just to talk to you. You guys are there doing that. This is what makes a community. This is what builds the future in America and all around the world. All the kids that are in here day in and day out, even if they don't end up growing up, lifelong UUers or signing the book or anything, they still take that with them wherever they go. They know that there are people out there who are like this. Vail once wrote that man cannot love his neighbor as himself when he is compelled to fight with his neighbor for his daily necessities. Today, this is a classic totem of socialism, Christian or otherwise. And it's one that's influenced my thought and has guided me onwards as with everything going on in the world as I try to process it and try to put forth my own thoughts. That's what compels me as a Unitarian Universalist. In the same way we all donate our time and resources and advocate for what is right, but also just share a smile with someone who needs it. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and I'm a socialist because I know another world is possible.
Now we will hear from the First Lady of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Statesboro, Miss June Hackle.
Good morning. The first gentleman is at the church he grew up in today, attending their homecoming services, so he left me to my own devices. I checked the book this morning because honestly, sometimes I forget how long I've been Unitarian Universalist. I actually signed up in 2008, attended a long time before that. And how I went from friend to member is kind of a journey. And it's not that epiphany that Paul found on the road to Damascus. It's more like Alice's falling down the rabbit hole, or finding a passage to Narnia in a wardrobe. Like most of us here, I was not born Unitarian Universalist. Grew up in a very small town, Chester, Georgia. Y'all can Google that one. Because nobody knows where it is. And I grew up in the Baptist church, Chester Baptist. And that was pretty much, you were, in Chester, you were Baptist, Methodist, AME, or AD. It was just the way it was. And I did not question that. And then, my dad was deacon in the church, and he came home after deacon's meeting one Sunday afternoon, and I heard him tell my mom, we actually had to discuss what would happen if, in the vernacular, a black person showed up at church. My dad said, I told him he was in the right hand of Christian fellowship, he helped him find a seat. But he felt that there was too much discussion. And that didn't sit right, because since I was 3 years old, I was singing Jesus Loves the Little Children. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Y'all know the song. That felt weird, because if Jesus loves everybody, why don't we want them to have a seat? But like most people, I'm really good at folding up things that are uncomfortable and filing them in the back of my head. So I did that. And got a little older, had some really good teachers at school that taught me to question. Not just give rote answers, don't answer this because I asked this, but think about what. And so I carried that over. And one day in Sunday school, my teacher said, well, so-and-so and so-and-so. And I said, why do you think that? And you would have thought time stopped. Well, I just do. Okay, that's not an answer. So I folded that up and I kind of came to Georgia Southern, yay. Go Eagles. Yeah. And got that liberal arts education that's, the ruination of everyone. It did teach me to think and ask those questions. And it brought me along. And I decided over many things, but there was, decided that I couldn't be Baptist. That didn't sit. There were too many things that did not make sense to me. So eventually I attended a Methodist church, Presbyterian, and there were great things about all of them, but nothing sat right. And then I meet my husband, Al, and we get married. We were living in Manor, and he's looking too. And he tells me one Sunday, got this church I want to try out. I said, okay. And it was the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Statesboro. And it was meeting in the Botanical Garden. So I go. And I wasn't impressed. It just, okay, this was totally different from church services, from what I knew as a church service. But, I grew up with that 3-bite rule. You gotta take 3 bites of something before you go say you don't like it. So I tried it again. And it kind of grows on you. And I started learning more about Unitarian Universalism, and I started meeting people. That was the most important thing. I started meeting people. And the idea that I can question things, that was my epiphany on the road to Damascus right there. It's okay to question. Oh, okay. And as I went, I learned, and it sat well. It made sense to me. And so I went, and I wasn't willing to make that final little, let's sign the book and call myself Unitarian Universalist. And then I had a child. And when you have a child, you ask yourself a lot of questions. How am I going to pay for Harvard? What kind of person do I want him to grow up to be? And I realized I want him to grow up to be a person who finds truth for himself. I want him to grow up to be a person who believes that everybody has worth and has dignity. I want him to be the person that doesn't always agree with me. That's going to bite you several times, but I do want him to be that person. He doesn't have to believe exactly what I believe, and I'm okay with that. And so, in that process, I realized, well, I want him to be Unitarian Universalist. What does that make me? Okay. And that's what it is, okay, yes. I believe in Unitarian Universalism. And that's what I want to be. And I'm still on the fence. And I heard something that was, that kind of set my heart at ease. I heard someone in the congregation say that they were both Unitarian Universalist and Christian. And something clicked. Oh wow, I don't have another choice. I can embrace the teachings of Christ. The ones that I grew up with, I still hold in my heart. I don't have to be anti one thing in order to be something. And so, yes, I can hold both of those. And I didn't wear it today. Got a really nice cross I sometimes wear. And that's when I realized I can embrace this. I can do it with my whole heart. And I did. October 2008, I signed the book. And that was a commitment. I believe in commitments. This is what you do. And so, like I said, it wasn't one epiphanous event. It was a serendipitous arc of lots of things. And that is why I'm Unitarian Universalist.
You will now hear from irreplaceable, unconquerable, impeccable craftswoman, Kiki Canon.
Okay, I can't live up to all that. Give me just a second here to open up my computer so that I can see what I wrote. Which would be nice, I think, for everyone involved. It will definitely be shorter for you than if I speak extemporaneously. I can definitely tell you. Oh, now we move the microphone. Do I need to use my herald voice? Because I can do that. I'll blow out the speakers here if I do that. Okay. So, hello everyone. I am Kiki, as most of you know. For those of you who may not know me, I will say that I am very sincere when I say that I am glad to meet everyone here, and I hope to get to know you all better by the end of this. I do not remember exactly how long I have been coming to UUFS, but I know that it is somewhere on our timeline between June and Logan. So if you're looking to place me, that's where I fall. But currently I am the head of our Welcoming Congregation Committee, and I was recently on the Ministerial Search Committee, which those of us that were blessed with that task had the joy of being able to introduce our newly ordained Reverend Samara Powers to this fellowship. But that is where I am now, and the question today is, how did I get here? So, my brain had this nagging urge when I first began to pull my thoughts together to get up in front of you all and explain how my journey was so quirky and so different from all of the other UUs I had heard speak. And then I thought, isn't that the way it is for every UU though? Like, aren't we the, I'm not like other girls of religion, you know, like, but there are those of us who grew up as UUs. June just told us about one. Her son grew up in the faith, and that is very fortunate for him. You know? I am very jealous of those who grew up as UUs. But statistically, I think most UUs do not fall into that category. We tend to find it at an older age of our own volition because of something else. We tend to be a bit odd or contrarian. We find we don't fit in elsewhere. And so in that, my story isn't really different. I discovered during my service on the Ministerial Search Committee that our ministers are much like our congregants. UU calls to ministry are typically something that comes to one later in life. UU ministers tend to have lived other lives and had other careers before finding their call for ministry. Much like most of us had other faiths before finding our home in Unitarian Universalism. And that is not what I was used to growing up. I come from a family of ministers, Baptist ministers, Southern Baptist ministers. In fact, my grandfather, father, and uncle were all ordained in that faith. And so that meant that my grandmother, mother, my aunts, etc., were all Sunday school teachers, choir members, piano players, preachers' wives, whatever they needed to be. So the Baptist church, and Baptist ministry especially, was just what was expected of everyone in my family. You were called to it by default of birth. Everything in my early childhood revolved around church. If you weren't at church, well, you were getting ready to go to church, or just coming home from church, planning something for church, thinking about church. And if you weren't, you were probably sinning and probably needed to get back to doing something regarding church. So my week revolved around Sunday morning service, Sunday evening service, Monday evening prayer meeting, although in the fall sometimes you get a night off because even Jesus shouldn't compete with football, Tuesday choir practice, Wednesday evening service, Thursday visitation. If you don't recognize that, that's the door-knocking evangelical time. Friday was for youth programs like Awana clubs, because Boy and Girl Scouts were too secular for our tradition. And I was in that long enough to be both a cubby and a sparky, and I still have these stuffed animals to prove it. And Saturdays were for whatever family social events could be cooked up by the church leadership to keep the congregation away from whatever sin was in the area. If they heard of a party or event the older kids might want to go to, this was the night for a competing holier version. The prim instead of the prom, the Hallelujah house to compete with Halloween, or just an old-fashioned lock-in, so that if they couldn't think of a theme. So anything to keep us close and watched and controlled. That was my childhood. Watched, controlled, always. I even went to church school up until the 5th grade. And I was taught ABECA and ACE curricula, and I'm sorry if I triggered anyone by just bringing those up. I did not get a view of the outside world until about age 11 or 12. My grandfather started many of the Baptist churches just within an hour drive of where I'm standing right now. You probably drive past them all the time without thinking about them. So
many of them still exist and are holding services right now as we speak. So why am I giving this talk here instead of one of those? And the easiest answer is most of those churches still will not allow a woman to speak from the pulpit even this day. But the more complex answer is that my mother died when I was 11, and the hold those churches had over my father and myself started to break at that time. My father would never fully leave Christianity as a faith. He would change denominations over the years, first different Baptist churches, and then, Presbyterian and Methodist and, all these kind of things. But his faith would become more liberal, but he would never come to question it in the way that I did, almost immediately. I spent my teens and early 20s questioning everything I came across. As such, adult me has retained very little of what child me would recognize in my worldview. Some of these changes my father took in his stride and even came along with me on. It turns out that Weird Al was the devil that brought secular music into my house for good. Interestingly, I found out later that this is a common story in very conservative religious households. It turns out that because Al works clean in his act, a lot of his albums slip into conservative religious households as just silly little things that the family can listen to. And then they introduce the sheltered kids to Michael Jackson and Madonna and Coolio and Nirvana and stuff in sort of a weird backwards way. So I found that out over the years that, again, my story, not that different. And it turns out that it's not a big hop from sneaking into a video store on the slow hours and renting a Disney film to take home and watch in the peace of your own home to just going to the movie theater and watching it in public and saying, yes, we do watch movies. That's fine. And it wasn't that far of a step to going to PG movies and PG-13 movies and finally just saying, we like movies. But my dad had a bit more trouble with Dungeons and Dragons for the first time, and the first time I became friends with someone who claimed they were a Wiccan. It turns out that the satanic panic of the 80s still had a late sway on him in the late 90s a little bit. But the biggest change came in 2011 when I moved back from a 2-year stint in Chicago back to Statesboro, and I told my father that I had become part of the new atheist movement. I know, I also cringed looking back on that time, as do most of us who got out of that movement more or less intact. There's a lot to unpack there, and I won't do it here. But what good did come out of that fad was that it helped a lot of people, myself included, who were from cult-like religious upbringings, finally break free of some of those bonds and start to think for ourselves. It also ended up leading me to UUFS. You see, my dad, in an attempt to try to lure me back to his God and his church, sought religious counsel from an old family friend we had. You may have heard of her. Her name is Jane Page. Jane, fortunately for me, counseled my dad against the hard sell, but suggested that I might want to try being a UU for a time. Dad thought that it would remind me that I missed church and wanted to come back. In truth, to this day, I love coming to UU the more it isn't like the churches of my youth. But what I found in the UU will not surprise any of you who have spent more than 5 minutes talking to me. I found a community. Some humans like to believe that they can be solitary creatures. America has sadly built a national mythology around this idea. Go your own way. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Do it for yourself. This, however, is absolute nonsense. No one can make it on their own. I've never been good on my own. I have always wanted to be part of a group. Unfortunately, groups have rarely wanted to be part of me. Most groups want conformity. They want followers. They want the quiet ones. But you didn't want that. You was okay with me just being here as me. They didn't require dress code, except maybe wear clothes, please. We do actually like that. Yeah, please do that. You didn't ask anything of me except acceptance. We accept those who accept others, right? You just wanted the things I was going to do anyway. And so, while I don't claim to be an atheist anymore, and my dad never got his wish that I went back to his God or his church, I didn't find God at UU because God wasn't what I was needing at that time. So what was I needing? Why am I still at UU? I needed a family. Some of us are born into this family. And lucky you if that was you. But almost all of us have found this family. We are found family. And with yesterday being coming out day, I want to speak specifically to those for whom that term has a special resonance. This is why I'm glad the UUA has the Welcoming Congregation program. And it's why I'm glad to be working to continue our participation on it here at UUFS. Because found family is important not only for the queer community, but for community. Family is never guaranteed, even if you're born into it. I am finding that out very keenly now that I am the last of the small family I was born into. Family must be refound constantly and reaffirmed, whether you found it by birth or by choice. And that is what the UU gave me. A found family of faith. I hope we can continue to be that for others. Found family faith. Faith in what? In who? Maybe just faith in ourselves as a family. The family that we found when we all found UUFS. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. That was really beautiful. Okay, if any of our speakers can stay for a little discussion, we will meet back in here at 11:45 to chat about our topic today, if anyone is interested. And now is the time that offerings will be given and received in grateful appreciation for shared hopes and values. Remember that half of offerings for this month not designated as pledges will go to the Statesboro Migrant Support. Your song.
For
Now is the time for joys and concerns. Are there those who would like to share a special joy or concern? We invite you to do so now. You may light a candle or put a stone in the water, and as you do so, share from your seat, and I can light a candle for you. If you're joining us on Facebook or have a joy or concern, share a comment and we'll read it to the group. But please know that whatever we share is being broadcast on Facebook Live and will remain in a recording on our Facebook so that others can access it. If you have something you need to talk about with someone confidentially, we welcome you to speak to Reverend Samara or our Pastoral Care Associates, Sherry Barr and Michael Williams, after the service if they're here or by telephone if they're not. Our other members are also here for you. We minister to one another. Now let us share and listen with love.
I'm Rebecca. I'm thankful that we live near Savannah with historic homes and bookstores and great restaurants.
Sarah, can you light a candle for me, please? I'm just so grateful to be a part of this church. After hearing our speakers this morning, I just have such a warm feeling about the contents, the makeup of this congregation, and I'm also just grateful for the amazing job you're doing as our worship leader this morning. Thank you.
I wanted to say something. I was sitting here and said, but Kiki said something about our clothing, that we don't have to dress that. Did you say something like that?
I said that we don't have a dress code other than
Right,
our pledge.
yeah. You know, I'm bored everybody here. I'm telling you that I lived in over Alabama for 42 years. Well, I'm grateful that Martha Hughes gave me a ride. But I told Martha this, and this is true. Believe me, this is true. In Auburn, at UU, there was this guy, Richard, and I like Richard really, but he came to church one day in his pajamas and bare feet. Oh, no dress code, no dress code. He came in his pajamas and bare feet. So the board didn't care about that, but he rehabilitates squirrels. And he brought a squirrel. And when I was telling Martha, she said, oh, the squirrel is in a little cage. Oh, no. The squirrel ran around. So the board said, no more squirrels. And, because, you know, a squirrel could be rabid. And a little rabid squirrel could bite someone, and that would not be good. So, anyway. But where you wouldn't do that in a Baptist church. Can you imagine going to a Baptist church in your pajamas with your squirrel? On a rainy day, we need to laugh.
I have worn pajamas to this UU before, but have not brought a squirrel yet, and I would be the one to do that, so.
Yeah. Okay. This has been a wonderful place to be.
I'm Sherry, and as Kiki referenced, I'm just going to light a candle in honor of our minister, the Reverend Samara Powers, whose ordination some of us were able to attend online yesterday. So,
My name's Gia, and I am mentally humming a Ray Stevens song in my head.
Yes. That one also.
Yep. But at Hackle, my brother-in-law is having back surgery. In not tomorrow, but the next Monday. It's going to be fairly serious, so I'm asking for just hold him up and pray for a successful surgery.
morning. My name's Sarah. I am lighting a candle of joy because one of my dear friends who's standing behind me got featured in an art show in Savannah. Savannah Cultural Arts Center. It's going to be there till the end of the month. So if you have time, please stop by and appreciate his art. It's beautiful, and there's also some really lovely pieces there by other artists. It was really cool to be there and support and show up for him. Logan drove, which I was so grateful for. I was so tired I couldn't possibly think of even driving. I fell asleep on the way. But anyway, yeah, go Syrin.
I mentioned how Weird Al changed my life, and June just mentioned Ray Stevens. Kind of along that same line, the guy that discovered Weird Al, a man named Dr. Demento, some of y'all remember the good doctor. His Monday name is Barrett Hansen. He just posted his final show after 55 years. He's retiring. 55 years of at least weekly shows, and he just posted his final show yesterday. It has been a very emotional time for many of us, and he's 82, I think now. And so I just wanted to light a candle of joy and kind of wistful sadness and hope that Barry has a very long and happy retirement. So, and thanks for everything. Barry, you're awesome.
Mike, do we have any joys and concerns in the chat?
There are none.
And this candle is for the joys and concerns in our hearts that remain unexpressed. It is time for our choral invocation to prayer. Will you rise with me in body or in spirit and sing Spirit of Life? No ad, no ad.
Whatever you love.
Number 123 in your black hymn. Great. Hymn. We're almost there. Before we sing our benediction and head out for coffee, do we have any announcements?
I just wanted to announce about the No Kings protest, which is happening on the courthouse square on Saturday from 11 to 1.
I think it's from 10.
Oh, Well,
You may want to check, I think 10.
I have 11 to 1, but Kiki may be right, but anyway, if you show up at 10, that's fine. And I just wanted to invite you all, if you have them, to come and wear your UU t-shirts, which are bright yellow, and really let people know that we have a presence there. So, and the other thing is, I am gathering a group of people to sing. So if you are interested, and even if you haven't sung in the choir, if you're interested in singing at the No Kings, let me know, because we have to kind of plan what songs we're going to sing, and I have to get permission, because you can't just show up and do that. So, but I hope you all will come to the No Kings protest, which is next Saturday on the courthouse.
I would like to make an announcement that I think is the perfect announcement following today's service. If you're interested in learning more about being a UU or about our history, please come to our workshop that Samara will be doing next week. It will be immediately after the service. I think it'll, after coffee, it'll start around 12 and last until about 1:30, 1 or 1:30. A light lunch will be provided. They are going to do an interactive service, and so I got a full workshop. So I'm not sure it's going to be different from what we've done in the past, but I'm sure it'll be very, very interesting. A lot of people have told me they're coming, people who have been to these before and who are long-time readers. It doesn't matter if you want a refresher, if you want to learn something. No pressure, just come and enjoy learning more about this religion. We've learned so much about this one.
Quick update, Adrian, you were correct. It is 11 to 1 on the 18th, the No Kings protest. I was incorrect.
No more notices? Okay. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our benediction, number 128, for all that is our life. And the video is supposed to have the lyrics, so let me drag that over there. See if we can get that.
Adobe's not gonna limit it, plan it.
Don't worry.
See if I can do it.
Please join us for coffee and light refreshments outside the sanctuary to the left, and we will have afterthoughts at 11:45.